It was just another quiet evening in the old house at the end of Sycamore Lane. The kind of house that people walked past a little faster, never looking straight at it for too long. Some said it was haunted, others said it was just abandoned for years. But for Ayaan and his younger sister Meher, it was home. Their parents had moved there only a month ago, chasing a good deal on a property that no one else seemed to want. At first, everything seemed normal. A bit dusty, a little cold, but nothing too strange. That is, until the knocking started. It wasn't loud, just soft, like knuckles gently tapping against wood. It always came at the same time, just after midnight, from behind the old wooden door at the end of the hallway. A door that their parents said led to a locked storage room, one that didn't open, ever. But each night, the sound grew a little stronger, and a little closer. Ayan tried to ignore it at first, brushing it off as creaky pipes or maybe wind. But Meher swore she heard whispers, faint, like someone calling her name. Curiosity began to eat at them. Who, or what, was behind that door? Why did the sound only come when the house was silent, when the world outside was asleep? They tried asking their parents, but their mom brushed it off, and their dad just changed the topic. It was like no one wanted to talk about it. That's when Ayan decided he would find out the truth himself. One night he crept down the hall, the floorboards cold under his feet, the knocking now steady, rhythmic. He reached for the doorknob, and then it stopped. Total silence. But something was breathing on the other side. Ayan froze. His hand hovered just inches from the doorknob, but he didn't move. He could feel it, something on the other side. Not footsteps, not movement, but presence. Heavy, watching. The air around him felt thicker, colder, like the hallway itself was holding its breath. He backed away slowly, his heart pounding loud enough to drown out everything else. Meher was standing behind him, wide-eyed, clutching the edge of her oversized sweatshirt. She didn't say a word, but her eyes asked everything. The next morning, Ayan tried to act like nothing had happened. At breakfast, he studied his parents carefully. His mom looked tired, like she hadn't slept all night. His dad kept checking his phone, barely touching his food. It was like they were both avoiding something, like they were pretending everything was fine. Ayan wanted to ask again, to tell them what he'd felt at the door, but something told him they already knew, and they weren't going to talk about it. Later that day, while their parents were out, Meher came running to Ayan with an old box she'd found in the attic. It was full of dusty papers, photographs, and a small diary with worn-out pages. Most of the writing was faded, but a few entries were still readable. They were written by a boy named Imran, someone who used to live in the house decades ago. The entries started off normal, talking about school and friends, but then shifted. Imran had also heard sounds, knocking, whispers, breathing. One entry stood out. The shadows behind the door aren't just shadows. They know when you're awake. They wait. Ayan's stomach twisted. He looked over at Meher, who was already reading the next page. Something was connecting their experiences with this boy from the past. Something inside that room had been there for years, maybe longer. But why was it still there? And why now? That night, the knocking started again. Louder this time, more insistent, almost angry. Ayan sat up in bed, sweat clinging to his neck. He wasn't sure if he was more afraid of what was behind the door, or what might happen if it ever opened. The knocking didn't stop that night. It came and went in waves. 3 knocks, a pause, then again. Ayan sat on the edge of his bed, gripping the edge of his blanket like it was some kind of shield. Across the hall, Meher hadn't slept either. She kept her bedroom light on, the diary clutched to her chest. There was something about the boy who wrote it, Imran. The way he described things, dark shapes in the hallway, cold spots in the middle of summer, the feeling of being watched. It all matched exactly what they were going through. But the entries had stopped suddenly. The last page was torn, as if someone didn't want it to be read. The next morning, Meher noticed something strange. The old door at the end of the hallway, it had scratches, long, thin ones near the bottom, like someone or something had tried to claw its way out. They hadn't been there before. Ayan took pictures on his phone, just to be sure he wasn't imagining it. He wanted to show their parents, but deep down he knew it wouldn't change anything. If they weren't willing to talk before, they definitely wouldn't now. Meanwhile, Meher started researching the house online. She found an old article from over 30 years ago. There had been a fire, and a boy had gone missing. It was never solved. The family who lived there moved away soon after, and the house had been vacant for years, until their parents bought it. She kept digging and found a name, Imran Qureshi. The same name from the diary, but no other details. No record of a body ever being found. That evening, Ayan noticed their dad standing alone in the backyard smoking a cigarette. He never smoked. When Ayan asked if something was wrong, his dad just stared at the sky and muttered, "It's starting again." He didn't explain. Back inside, the lights began to flicker. The door creaked, even though no one had touched it. And for the first time, Meher said she saw something in the reflection of the hallway mirror, just behind Ayan. A dark figure. Faint, but there. The door hadn't opened, but whatever was behind it wasn't waiting anymore. The darkness behind the door wasn't just a lack of light, it felt alive. As Ayan stepped inside, his flashlight flickered, barely cutting through the thick, swirling air. The room was freezing and silent, yet filled with the weight of something watching. The air smelled old, like damp wood, and something else, like earth, like something buried. The walls were covered in peeling wallpaper, and in the far corner a cracked mirror leaned awkwardly against the floor. Ayan's heart pounded as he whispered Meher's name. No answer. He stepped deeper in. The door creaked shut behind him on its own, sealing out the rest of the world. He turned quickly, but there was no handle on this side, just splintered wood. Trapped. The flashlight flickered again, and for a moment, in the reflection of the mirror, he saw her. Meher, standing still, not moving. But when he turned around, nothing, just shadows. Cold, suffocating shadows stretching unnaturally across the room, like they were alive, creeping along the floor and up the walls. He aimed the flashlight back at the mirror. Meher was still there, but her eyes were blank. Her mouth was open like she was screaming silently, but the sound couldn't reach him. A sudden, low whisper brushed against his ear. "She's almost ours." Ayan spun around. No one there. The shadows were closer now, crawling toward him like a tide. He clutched the diary tightly, flipping through the pages. Imran had written something about the mirror. "Don't face it directly," the entry read. "It's a doorway, not just glass." Another line, scratched in hard enough to nearly tear the page. "If you see them in the mirror, they see you too." Panic rose in Ayan's throat. He turned the flashlight away from the mirror and focused on the center of the room, where the shadows seemed to be pulling toward something, a small trapdoor in the floor. It was half open, revealing nothing but more darkness below, and from it came a sound. Not a whisper this time. Crying. Software familiar. Meher. Without thinking, Ayan crawled to the trapdoor and peered down. He could just barely make out her shape, curled up, shaking. "Meher," he called. She didn't respond, just kept mumbling something over and over. He strained to listen. "They're in the walls. They're inside me now. Don't let them take you too." A sudden gust of wind slammed through the room, knocking the flashlight from his hand. Darkness swallowed him. He could feel hands now, cold, invisible, pulling at him, dragging him backward. He fought to stay near the trap door, reaching down for Meher as her face tilted up toward him. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. Behind him, the mirror cracked, and something stepped out. Ayan didn't turn around. He couldn't. Every nerve in his body screamed that whatever had stepped out of the mirror wasn't meant to be seen. It was like the room itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to make a mistake. The trapdoor creaked under his weight as he reached further into the darkness, trying to grip Meher's hand. But something was changing. Her voice had gone quiet, too quiet. He finally touched her fingers, cold, shaking, but instead of grabbing his hand, she pulled away. Her eyes met his, and for a brief second, they weren't her eyes anymore. They were darker, hollow, like something else was looking out from inside her. "You're too late," she whispered, and before he could react, she slipped back into the darkness below. A loud crack echoed through the room. The mirror behind him shattered completely, not into pieces, but into sharp, shifting fragments that hovered in midair, reflecting strange shapes, faces that didn't belong to anyone he recognized. Some were screaming, others were just staring. Then, one of the fragments floated toward him, tilting slightly. Ayan caught a glimpse of himself, but it wasn't now. It was him as a little boy, standing in a room just like this, staring at the same door. He stumbled back, his mind racing. That memory didn't exist. Not really, but it felt familiar, like he had been here before, years ago, and something had made him forget. What if this wasn't just about the house? What if the house remembered him? Suddenly, footsteps echoed from upstairs. Fast, heavy. Someone was coming. Ayan backed away from the trap door, heart pounding. The door to the room flew open and his dad rushed in, flashlight in hand. His eyes immediately locked on the shattered mirror. "No," he muttered. "It's not time yet." He shoved Ayan aside and pulled something from his coat. An old key, rusted and strange-looking. He dropped to his knees, started scratching symbols into the floor near the trap door. Ayan stared in disbelief. "You knew?" he shouted. "You knew this was here the whole time?" His dad didn't answer, just kept working, muttering words in a language Ayan didn't recognize. The shadows around the room grew more restless, swirling faster, pushing against the walls. "They marked you when you were a child," his dad finally said. "We thought we got away. We changed everything, our names, our—" The room shook as the glowing symbols flared with a sharp, burning light. The shadow that rose from the trapdoor was no longer just a presence. It had form now. Tall, twisting, almost human, but not quite. Its face kept shifting, flashing with images of people Ayan had never seen. Then suddenly his own face appeared, and it smiled. Ayan's father stood between him and the creature, chanting louder, more desperate. The words weren't familiar, but their power was real. The shadows recoiled with each line, twitching like they were being pushed back. But the creature didn't. It kept coming, unaffected, eyes locked on Ayan. Then Meher rose from the trapdoor. At first he thought she was still possessed, still caught in whatever this thing was. But her face was hers now, pale, tired, but clear. "Ayan," she whispered, "it's using your memories. That's how it keeps the door open." His heart sank. The flashes in the mirror, the feeling he'd been here before. "But I don't remember anything," he said. Meher stepped closer, her hand on his chest. "You were here, a long time ago, with them." She glanced at their dad. "But they wiped it from you, to keep you safe." The shadow hissed, now angry. The walls groaned, and shards of mirror shot across the room, spinning like blades. Ayan felt something spark inside him, not fear, but recognition. A memory, buried deep, pushed its way to the surface. The same symbols, The same words. A doorway he had once helped close as a child. Now he remembered. He stepped forward and finished the last line of the chant his father had been saying, his voice trembling but clear. The light from the floor pulsed outward, a shock wave of energy slamming into the creature. It screamed, not loud, but sharp and shrill, like metal tearing through bone. The shadows ripped apart, twisting back into the trapdoor, dragging the creature with them. The door slammed shut, the light faded, and silence filled the room. They had sealed it. Again. Ayan turned to Meher, ready to say something, anything, but then the floor beneath her cracked, just slightly. Her eyes widened. "I never left," she whispered. And then she smiled. But it wasn't her smile. Home. But it found you again. A sudden screech echoed from below the floor. Meher's voice, or something wearing it, called out, "He's lying." Ayan backed away, torn. The truth was crumbling around him. His childhood wasn't what he thought. The house wasn't just haunted, it was connected to them. Somehow, whatever was behind that door, in the trap door, in the mirrors, it wanted them back. Not just as visitors, as pieces. The air split open with a blinding light as the symbols on the floor started to glow. A shadow rose from the trap door, no longer hiding. It knew his name. Ayan froze. For a moment, everything felt still. Too still. Meher stood there smiling, but something in her eyes was wrong. Not fear, not relief, emptiness, a deep, endless quiet that didn't belong to her. Ayan stepped back slowly, his breath shallow. "Meher," he said gently, "it's over. You're safe." She tilted her head. "I'm not Meher." The voice was hers, but the tone, cold, detached, hollow. Before Ayan could react, his father stepped forward, eyes wide with horror. "No," he whispered. "We didn't close it fast enough." He looked at the glowing floor, now dim and cracked. "It got out before we sealed the door." Ayan's stomach dropped. The creature hadn't been destroyed. It had shifted, escaped. And now it was inside her. But then Meher blinked, once, slowly, and tears welled in her eyes. Her smile faded. Her breathing changed. "It's still here," she whispered, trembling. "But I'm fighting it." His father grabbed Ayan's shoulder. "She's strong, but not for long. If we leave it in her, it'll grow." Ayan stared at his sister, at the girl who had stood beside him through every moment of fear, every dark hallway, every shadow behind every door. He shook his head. "We're not losing her." He opened the diary again, flipping to the page Imran had written about mirrors. It mentioned a way back, a reflection that could be used to trap, not just release. A place between. With shaking hands, Ayan pulled the broken mirror closer and angled it toward Meher. Her reflection wavered, then split. Two versions of her, one crying, one smiling. "You have to choose," he said. "Now." Meher closed her eyes. When she opened them again, the smile was gone. Just fear remained, and exhaustion. "It's quiet now," she said softly. "I think it's gone." Ayan didn't speak. He didn't have to. He just stepped forward and hugged her, tighter than he ever had. Their father sank to the floor, wiping his face, relief and guilt washing over him all at once. The mirror cracked once more, then shattered fully, its last piece falling flat, showing nothing but their own faces, clear and alone. A week later, they left the house for good. No more locked doors, no more knocking in the night. But sometimes, just before sleep, Ayan swore he could still hear faint whispers, as if the shadows behind the door were waiting and remembering